Sandro Botticelli. Sandro Botticelli's original name was Alessandro di Mariano Filippepi. He was born in 1445 in Florence, Italy. He was considered one of the greatest painters in the Florentine Renaissance. Botticelli's father was a tanner. His father apprenticed Botticelli to a goldsmith after he had finished his studies, so he learned a little bit about metalwork. But Sandro preferred painting, so his father apprenticed him to Filippo Lippi. Filippo was one of the most admired Florentine masters. Filippo was formed in the early Florentine Renaissance, so his style and influence was fundamental to Botticelli's artistic formation. Filippo's influence is very evident in Botticelli's pupil works. Lippi, or Filippo, taught Botticelli techniques such as panel painting, fresco, and linear perspective. Botticelli acquired many types of compositions from Lippi. He did a very graceful work in costuming after learning from him. And you can also see a partiality to certain paler hues that are still visible even after Botticelli developed his own strong and resonant color schemes. So he always kept a little part of what Filippo taught him with him and his artworks. Botticelli worked on improving the style he had learned from his teacher after Lippi left Florence. At this time, Botticelli started to study the sculptural style of Antonio Paolo and Andrea del Verrocchio. I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing this right. I really don't know how to. These were the leading Florentine painters of the 1460s. And under this influence, Botticelli produced figures of sculptural roundness and strength. So Lippi had a very delicate approach, and Botticelli did as well. But after learning all of these techniques, Botticelli replaced it with a very robust and vigorous naturalism. By 1470, Botticelli was already established in Florence as an independent master or teacher with his own workshop. He used all of his time for his art, so he never married, and he lived with his family in the same house. From 1478 to 1481, Botticelli entered his artistic maturity, so this is like the best point of his artistic career, to say it in some way. Tentativeness was replaced by highly skilled mastery, and he was able to include and integrate figure and setting. And with this, he was able to draw the human figure with a great complexity and vitality. And he later showed an outstanding skill at the writing of narrative texts such as biographies. So now the first of Botticelli's most popular or powerful or greatest art pieces is the St. Augustine. This was created in 1480. It was located in the Church of Ognissanti in Florence, Italy. The saint's pertinent energy and strength express both intellectual power and spiritual devotion in this work. It was commissioned or asked by the Vespucci family, who were very close allies to the Medici family that will later become regular patrons of Botticelli. It is now located in the Uffizi Gallery in Florence, Italy, and Botticelli's early mastery of fresco is clearly shown in this work. Now, The Birth of Venus. It was from 1485 to 1486, created and completed. This painting was requested or commissioned by the Medici family in Florence, Italy. It doesn't have an exact location. This painting is a classical myth, it's not a religious painting, and this work represents Venus as she emerges on a shell to the shore and is guided by the wind gods. Venus is the goddess of love. Botticelli captures the movement of the goddess and the story of her birth in this work. Something that is very amazing about this work is how he captures the movement so clearly. This later became a symbol of the birth of beauty into the world. It is now located from the Uffizi Gallery in Florence, Italy, just as the past one. The next one is called La Primavera. There is no exact date, but it's estimated on the late 1470s to early 1480s, so in about 1482. It was located in Villa di Castello, borders of Florence, Tuscany, Italy. It is also known as Allegory of Spring, some people call it like that. This work shows a group of mythological icons or figures in a garden, and amongst these there is Venus, who stands at the center of the work. So this is the second painting that has Venus in it. The garden's vegetation is an allegory for the growth and life brought by the spring, and the scenery is so elaborate that it shows hundreds of types of flowers and plants. It is also located at the Uffizi Gallery in Florence, Italy. This next one is called Adoration of the Magi. It was created and completed from 1475 to 1476. It was located at the Santa Maria Novella in Florence, Italy. This is a Christian theme work of art, and it shows one of the Bible's most important scenes. The painting shows the three magi, or wise men, kneeling, worshipping the Holy Family, who are Christ, Mary, and Joseph, offering them gifts. But this painting does not only portray a religious meaning, but it also has some prominent figures from the Florentine society, including Cosimo de' Medici. He was the first of the Medici family dynasty that ruled Florence. Cosimo is the Magi, or the wise men in the black, kneeling in the front of Mary. The man looking directly at the observer is a self-portrait of Botticelli added by him. This work is also actually located at the Uffizi Gallery in Florence, Italy, and I researched, and it's because one of the Medicis founded this gallery, and as I said before, Botticelli worked a lot for them. This next one is a chart of hell. It was from 1485, I'm sorry, and it doesn't have an exact location, but it was once in the Duke of Hamilton's collection. Botticelli's Chart of Hell, or Divine Comedy illustration, was one of the most powerful representation of Dante's Inferno ever made. This was also said to be one of the best works, or one of the best masterpieces of Botticelli's works. This masterpiece is done with a pen and brush on vellum, and it portrays the fall or the descent made by Virgil and Dante, who were poets, through the abysmal valley of pain. Dante envisioned hell as an abyss leading to the center of the earth. He imagined 9 rings of hell that each represented a category of sin. This masterpiece is very intricate, but sadly it got lost, and then it got found in the 19th century. It is now in the Vatican collection. And last but not least, the 6th work of art is called Mars and Venus. It was from 1483. This is my favorite. It was probably for a wedding, and there is no exact location of before. The message behind Botticelli's painting is love conquers war. In this painting, you can see Mars, who is the god of war, and you can see him asleep and unarmed, while Venus, who is the goddess of love, is awake and alert. So Botticelli was most likely influenced by the classical painting of Alexander the Great and Roxana. In that painting, Cupids play with Alexander's armor and spears, like the satyrs who steal Mars's lance in Botticelli's work. This is the only of the 6 works I mentioned that is not actually located at the Uffizi Gallery. This one is located at the National Gallery in London.